What's up, everybody? It's Greg Birch with Delta Financial, and this is the Be the Difference podcast. This podcast is all about sales, leadership, marketing, mindset, everything under the sun to help you become a better version of yourself. And sometimes we bring on guest speakers. Today, I have the honor and pleasure of welcoming Mr. Tyler Weatherly. Tyler.
What's going on, Greg?
How you doing, brother?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing well, man. I'm doing well. It's good to see you, man. We've talked a lot on Instagram. So Instagram and Facebook Messenger.
Yeah, for sure. And I'll just kind of tell you, I wanted to talk about this on here. You've kind of been like a celebrity to me for a while now. And so, we built what I feel like is a friendship over the past, few months and stuff like that. And it's just, it's kind of surreal for me being on this podcast with you. And so I greatly appreciate it.
Man, it's my pleasure, bro. I'm humbled that you said that. It's very, very kind of you. Well, let's go ahead and I'm going to introduce you. I'm going to talk about a little bit about you so that the viewers know who you are. So Tyler he's 25. He lives in Central Arkansas, and he's always wanted to be in business for himself. I need to turn that off. Hold on one second. There we go. He always wanted to be in business for himself. After trying to work multiple normal jobs, he finally decided to take the leap and go in business for himself. And he currently is in insurance. He does employee benefits. He has 12 agents on his team. He's 25% owner in a firearm store as well. And he started that when he started, it was $800. And right now it's worth well over $100,000. In addition, this is my favorite part. He's going to put a 75 hard, phase 1 and phase 2, and starts phase 3 in January. I friggin' love it. I'm on phase 3 right now, bro.
I know, I've been seeing it.
It's you know what I was so scared about? I was so scared about the about having conversations with strangers and the random acts of kindness. And it's really not that hard. It's not that bad.
I've been kind of worried about the random acts of kindness. I mean, being in a sales position, I feel like talking to strangers, comes naturally, whether I'm at the gym or the store, just literally wherever I am. But I mean, other than, buying people's coffee or, picking up trash on the side of the road, I'm having to try to rack my mind for what kind of random acts of kindness I can come up with.
You'd be surprised. So what I did is I just Googled, there's a website that's all about, it's called like randomactsofkindness.org or something like that. And it's, and it has all these different things that you can do just to be kind to somebody. And some of it is like sending someone a written letter. Like because it's just very thoughtful. It takes time. You got to put a stamp on it. You got to walk to the mailbox. But like telling them how much you appreciate them, stuff like that. So I did that one day. Writing a review for a business, like a really thoughtful review, like taking your time. How many people like really do that? Unless it's like an awe-inspiring thing that they want to share their experience, but really just trying to help a local business out. You can do that.
For sure.
I left a really large tip at one place. Paid for somebody else's coffee behind me. Yeah, there's a lot of different things, and it like lists them out. So I was like, oh, today I'm going to do that. Oh, today I'm going to do that. So
that's awesome. I'll definitely have to check that out when it comes time for phase 3.
When I have a list in front of me, I'm like, I can do that, but it's like trying to come up with something. I'm like, well, what would be a random act of kindness? So yeah, it's ultimately it's been good. I was really scared. I'll be honest. I was nervous starting it. I was like nervous the day before, and the morning of when I woke up, I was like, oh man, I got to do this. Like today's the day, and there's no like pushing it off. There's it's no, like you can't do it later. You can't, and you can't fail, because if I mess up a day, I have to start the entire year all over again. I was like, man, that's kind of put a pit in my stomach. And I was like, man, if I mess this up, this is like, it's kill or be killed, it's one shot, one kill. This is it. Right. And so I was really nervous coming into it, but now that I'm doing it, it came at a perfect time. And what a time when I needed it mentally for my mindset. And man, it's been really awesome. I've had some really awesome conversations with complete strangers that have been fantastic. That's just like that I never would have had I not been on this program.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I'm so excited, and I can already tell, like, it's kind of funny how my mindset, has shifted through going through the Live Hard program. And so I'm going to be in Vegas while like right smack in the middle of phase 3. And so I was telling the people that I'm going with, like I was like, guys, I'm gonna be on phase 3 of Live Hard. I'm like, so I gotta get 2 workouts a day in. I don't remember, is cold shower in phase 3 or is that just phase
Cold
1?
showers in phase
Yeah.
3.
So cold shower, my reading, everything that's on the list and stuff. And so many people have been like, "Can you not just like push it back? Can you not like do it later?" And I'm like, "No." I'm
I
like,
can't.
this is more important to me than, going to Las Vegas. Like I'm still gonna go, I'm still gonna enjoy it and stuff like that. But like the people who haven't completed Live Hard, or I haven't completed it, but haven't completed 75 Hard, haven't completed the phases, like
They
it's
don't
just a
understand.
mindset different that only
It's
people who have truly done it understand.
they don't understand. Like, and I've traveled. I've traveled twice. I traveled to Nashville for the RTA event, and I was nervous about traveling and keeping up with all tasks. It's actually easier to do a lot of the tasks on the plane. Like that's where I talk to a lot of strangers. Is just I just look
Mhm.
over, and it's funny. You just reach over, and I just reach over with my hand. I'm like, "Hi, I'm Greg. Where are you going today? Like, where's your final destination?" And just start the conversation like that. And initially, it's kind of weird, but like people like talking, and they're
For
just like,
sure.
and there's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And before you know it, you're like talking about all kinds of stuff. And they're like, what are you here for? RTA? Like, what's that? I'm telling them about RTA. And then they're like looking it up. And it's actually not as hard as I thought it was going to be. I just traveled to Puerto Rico. I just got back today. I was nervous about traveling to Puerto Rico because I was like, man, I'm gonna be having complete conversations with like real strangers. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
But it worked out just fine. And I'm going to Tampa next week to go visit my kids, and I'll be in Tampa all week for Thanksgiving. And I'm basically finishing when I get back from Tampa. I'll be done with phase 3.
that's
So no, man,
awesome.
a lot of traveling, but I'm able to work it in. Here's the thing: if you want to make the time for it, you will.
For
You know.
sure. It just
So
goes back to that everyone has the same 24 hours in the day.
absolutely, that is
And
absolutely true.
so, if you don't mind, while we're on the topic of 75 Hard, Live Hard, I would just like to share with people, they're going to be watching this. And, when it comes out, I'm going to, send it to a lot of people too, because I haven't gotten to like had a platform to really like tell my 75 Hard
Oh,
slash partial Live
whatever you
Hard
want to talk
journey.
about, bro. This is your podcast.
Right on. So, For I'll say for those who don't know, pretty much everyone doesn't know. At the beginning of 2022, I weighed 250 pounds, like right in there, which was not like 250 pounds of muscle. It was like 250 pounds of fat. I am 6'3", so it wasn't like obesity, but I was uncomfortable. I didn't look good, and the reason that I had gotten there, I had gone from just a couple of years ago weighing 185 pounds, being super skinny, to 250 pounds. And the reason I had gotten there was because there was other areas in my life that I just was failing. And so I actually saw you on Instagram, that you were doing the program, and listening to the Real AF podcast, the Real AF podcast. I was like, man, this is something that I want to do. And I also had like no money at the time. And so like I wanted the book because I was like, the book will help me, figure out exactly what to do. Like the podcast was clear, but I was like, I want the book. And it just so happens that I'm literally like scrolling through Facebook, and I see Greg makes a post. Hey, I just bought 20 of the 75 hard books. If anyone wants one, message me and I'll send it to you. And so I like instantly like shoot you a message, and I'm like, hey, like I would love to have one of the books. And you're like, oh yeah, for sure, send me your address. And I honestly didn't know if I would actually like get it or not. But then like a week or two later, like the book comes in, I read it, and then I started like within like a day or two of getting the book after I, read it.
It's a quick read,
So
right?
yeah, it's an amazing
It's
read.
actually a really good book. He writes the way he writes is very like captivating. I remember reading it
And
and I was just like, before I knew I was in chapter like 7. I was like, man, this is good.
for sure. And so I start doing the workout, start following my diet, doing the reading. And I hate reading books. And since I've been doing Live Hard, I've read like 10 or 12 books. And so like I find myself even reading outside of the program, even when it's not required. And like a year ago, I would have never thought I was going to read any books. And so I finished 75 hard. at like 210 pounds or something like that, like way leaner. And I felt good about myself again. And so that was like the physical change, that everybody could see. And the deeper side of it, that no one could see was like I had no money. And because, I was an entrepreneur and so many people are entrepreneurs that don't make any money. And that's exactly what I was. And I would blame the IMO that I was with, or I would blame the leads, or I had a list of excuses this long as to why I was making no money. And so an opportunity came up during 75 hard that was presented to me like, hey, do you want to shift to a different side of insurance? So I shifted from like what you guys do there at Delta, which I wish Delta would have been around when I was in the individual life insurance sales, because I know I would have gone and done so much better than I did with the previous IMOs. But an opportunity came to shift to employee benefits, and I felt like it was the right move, and so I shifted. I gave it my all, and I broke all kinds of records, and I kind of found my niche in the market, if you will. And so that's the part that you couldn't see. What you could see was the fact that I lost like 40 pounds, and now I've even lost like 50 pounds, gained some muscle, all that stuff. Like that's physically great, but you know feeling like I have a purpose, and I owe that all to myself, because I did that. I mean, 75 hard laid out the steps for me, but I did that. And so it's just been a really cool experience. And, I'm hoping that one day I'll be able to inspire people to try it. Usually when I tell people about it, they just look at me like, why would I want to do that? And I'm like, I could never afford not to do it.
Yeah. No, so you're tapping on a couple of things here that I think is really key for people to understand is that you talk about before you started, you had this laundry list of excuses of why you weren't making money, right? And it's almost like through the program that you go through, and you have to be disciplined as tasks, and then you fall in love with yourself in a sense that like that you have so much more within you, and that everything that previous that wasn't even close to your potential. And so you fall in love with yourself in the sense that you know that like you trust yourself. If I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it, right? And I'm going to do the hard tasks. And through that process, you kind of look back and you realize like, man, I was making a lot of excuses. Like my situation, the situation I'm in is because of me. It's because of the decisions that I made. And the only person to blame, I was blaming all these other people, and I wasn't blaming myself, right? And it gives you, so I think if you would have gone to if you'd have done any other industry, it would have been your niche, and you would have
Yeah,
and you would have crushed it.
I never thought about it like that, but that is very true.
So and that was what happened with me is, I mean, I had a level of success, but it wasn't the success that I wanted. And when I did 75 hard, I was like, man, there's so much more that I could do. I'm like in this world, like there's so much more that I could do, and there's so much more that I could be helping people with, and like just pushing myself harder. And I've made excuses, and it literally, I became a different person. I was a different human being, and that's I think what resonates with the right people. Like you saw me on Instagram doing this, and you're like that resonated with you, right? In that moment of
Mhm.
time, you're like, dude, I want to be a different person. I want to be better, and that got you rolling. Sometimes it's just we have to lead by example just by doing it. Some people will look at it and say, you know what, there's something about you, Tyler, like you're positive, you're just crushing it all the time, and you're doing all these things. What are you doing? What's the secret? And you're like, dude, it's just 75 hard. Just stop making excuses and do it, bro. Like, and eventually some people will do it, some people won't. They're just like, and the biggest thing I always hear is like, man, I can't drink for 75 days. No, bro, you can't. Like, if you can't go without alcohol for 75 days, you might want to go to treatment.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Like,
Like that's a
yeah,
problem.
it's funny because I finished phase two like at some point last week, and I haven't even had any alcohol like since I finished phase two, and it's I have nothing against it. Like I'll have a drink with friends and stuff like that, but it's never like a thing where I'm like, oh, I just have to have this, and it's because that discipline that yeah, there's some days where, I've worked super long and, I have people that I'm having to deal with and like, yeah, I think, oh man, that would feel nice to sit down and have a drink to try to relax. But, I just understand and know myself well enough to be like, you don't really need that. Like,
Yeah.
go do a workout, go read a book. Like,
Yeah. I still have to do my outdoor workout and it's like freezing here in Texas right now.
yeah,
And
it
stuff for
got
freeze. It's 43. It got
super
super cold.
cold.
It got super
So
cold.
on Thursday of last week, it was 78 degrees, and over the weekend, it was like 35.
Yeah.
It's just
It's
crazy.
crazy. And it's like raining. I'm like, I do not want to go outside. But a part of me, I'm like, there's another part of me, I'm like, yeah, that's what it's
Yeah,
supposed. This is what it's supposed
you
to
like those because that's what separates you.
be. Yeah,
I
it
mean,
is.
that's what separates the people that get it from the people that don't.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So Tyler, tell us a little bit about your journey into entrepreneurship and the challenges that you faced and what brought you to today.
Oh gosh. So I don't even know where to start. I guess I'll go back to like when I was in high school. I pretty much like didn't really like school, and so I was looking at what's next, right? What's after high school, and so I found that the best route was going to be like technical school, and so I went to school for 2 years to learn how to basically be a mechanic, and I did that for a while. And I just hated it because like I was working outside or in the heat, under vehicles. It was at one point I had my little temp gun thing, and it was like 70 or not 75. The number 75 was on my mind, but it was like 154 degrees under the car in the middle of hot Arkansas summers, so it's like 120 feels like with the humidity outside, 150 under the engine, and I was just like, I cannot do this for the rest of my life, and so I made kind of a career change pivot into law enforcement, and that was extremely short lived. I went through the police academy and stuff, and was just like, this is not for me. And so that kind of, I pretty much just decided, hey, look, I'm leaving this. This is not what I want to do for myself. And so the next day, I woke up, didn't have a job. And so, that's like a very real moment. I don't know if you've ever, felt like that, but like usually you have a plan in place for like what's next, and stuff that you do is calculated. And so you roll from one thing to the next. Well, for me, it was like, I'm getting out of this today and I don't know what tomorrow comes.
Mm.
And so that's what kind of started the entrepreneur thing, because even when I was going to school to be a mechanic, my dream was to open up my own shop. And so, ever since I was a little kid, I wasn't fascinated by, rock stars and movie stars. I was fascinated by business leaders, right? I was fascinated by people who built their own companies and things like that. And so that Wednesday, when I woke up and no longer had a job, I was kind of forced to figure something out. And so that's where I say my entrepreneur journey started, which it started by me driving Uber. And, it's a subcontractor thing. And so, I kind of, that was my first experience of putting work in and getting, what I got out of it. And so I did the Uber thing for, I don't know, like 3 or 4 months. It wasn't a super, super long time. And then I, people had always said, Tyler, you talk so much, you should go into sales. Tyler, you talk so much, you should go into sales. And so I started looking for sales positions that were hand in hand with entrepreneurship. I was talking to a friend of my father's who is a CEO of a company about this. He's kind of mentored me in some stuff. And
Mhm.
he was like, if you're going to go in sales, anybody can go sell a car. You should do something that requires a license. He was like, you should look into real estate and you should look into insurance. And because I never thought about getting into insurance. And then I made the decision after looking into them that I was going to go into insurance. And so I literally Googled how to get your insurance license in Arkansas, paid way too much money for a pre-licensing course because I didn't know that, there were discount programs and then places that would just pay for your pre-licensing course. So I paid a couple $100, knocked it out, got my license and stuff. And then I just kind of went to work and bounced around, several IMOs that, kind of led me to where I am now.
Very nice. Very nice. So you kind of had it always in your heart. You want to be an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
You want to be your own boss, do your own thing, do the work, and get that financial freedom. Um, what kind of challenges? I mean, you kind of talked a little bit about your challenges earlier when you're talking about 75 hard, about all the excuses you're making. But let's talk about once you took the opportunity to go into employee benefits realm. What kind of challenges did you face there? What was that journey like to get to where you are today?
So my story there, I guess, then kind of challenges was just waking up every day and doing the work. And so the my experience with insurance up until then was every time I would have a problem, I would get told just buy more leads. Well, when you're
I
not
love that.
making
I love that.
when you're not making sales, those leads are hard to buy.
Yeah.
And when I switched to Colonial Life is who I'm partnered with now doing employee benefits, they said, we don't want you to buy any leads. We don't even, do leads. Everything we do is, face to face, business to business sales. So you don't need to buy leads. And that's what kind of, and got me to it or intrigued me about it. And, there's nothing wrong with buying leads. Leads can be so much easier, but I was abused by that, I guess, if you
Mhm,
will say.
mhm.
And I know you're very familiar with that. And I'm sure all the agents at Delta, or most of the agents at Delta that came over from other IMOs, were familiar with that. But they said, look, this is what you got to do. You have to go see this many businesses every day, and then call this many businesses every day. And they said, if you call this many businesses every day, you will be successful. And so I thought, well, I can do that. And so I did it. And, fast forward, I guess, 9 months now, I've gone from being what they consider just a sales rep agent to 2 levels up, being over a district. And it just, kind of goes to show that, like, the timing with 75 hard was perfect because my 75 hard app said I need to do this, 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 and this. And so I had a list of I need to do this, 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 and this for business. And so that's all it kind of came down to was I didn't know the activity that I needed to do to get the results that I wanted. And so when someone was able to take the time and show me, okay, this is the activity that you need to do to get this result, it just clicked for me. And, any business is literally as simple as that, is do activity, do the right activity, get the result. And it just takes, people telling you that, showing you the right activity, doing the right activity alongside of you, instead of them just telling you to buy, 1,000 more leads of people that have been dead for a couple of years.
Yeah. So you're talking about one of the bad habits you had was getting up and actually doing that activity, like doing the actions, like and almost sounds like you probably avoided it a little bit at the start. Most of us do. So I'm actually reading. Have you ever read Atomic Habits by James Clear?
Mhm.
Fantastic book. Such
Great
a
book.
such a great book. Such a great book. So I'm late to the party on Atomic Habits, but I really like it. Um, I want to dig into this and like changing your habits, right? And like how did you change your habits whenever you were like, did you realize like, dude, I got this bad habit that I need to remove and I need to make it so unattractive and put in this other good habit, make it more attractive so that I can replace it? Like, was there a process there that you worked through, or was it just kind of like, man, I'm doing 75 hard. Here's my task. I just got to get the work done.
Well, it was my rock bottom, I guess, if you will. And so it was gonna be I was gonna lose relationships. I was gonna, lose my vehicle, lose, I mean, potentially my house, like lose everything if I didn't s- change something. And so at first I had started trying to take, the easy way out of giving up on my dream of just going and getting another job, working 9 to 5
Mm,
and being miserable because that was easier than facing the fact that I was undisciplined. And I don't know if that, really answers your
I mean,
question
it does
or
in a
not.
it does in a sense. Dude, I feel like every entrepreneur I've talked to, all of them have a moment where it's like they put themselves in such a hole that it's like their back's so against the wall that it's like, if I don't do it, if I don't make this happen, I don't just do the work, and like, because you really don't want to do the work. I'm gonna be honest, like I'm the same way. Like, I'm no one's special, right? I'm just like every other person. When I first started insurance, I didn't want to get on the phones. I didn't want to call leads. I was like, I would buy leads and I wouldn't even call them. Then they go to waste, and I'd be like, oh yeah, I'm calling them all day, and I wasn't calling them at all. Like I'd call
Mhm.
like half of them one time. I'm like, man, I've been dialing all day. No, I
Yep.
didn't dial at all. But because I was so like nervous about it and I just didn't want to do it. Like I was
Yeah.
so fearful of rejection, fearful of failing, all that stuff that
Which
go
oh,
ahead.
sorry. What you just said reminded me, and so with a previous IMO they had, that I was with when I was in the individual life insurance sales, they had rolled out this, program, I guess, if you will, where it was like a live transfer thing, and it was this, like, top of the line, like, live transfer program, and they were super expensive, and I had like 7 or $800 credit with them, which would probably give me like 16 calls or something like that. Because I think they're like 40 or 50, maybe $60 a thing. But then there was this like buffer window where you could talk to the person for free for 2 minutes. And when I would get on that, I would literally be so scared of going over 2 minutes because if I ran out of my credits, I wouldn't be able to have any more, but I
Yeah.
literally wasn't using them. And so, like, I would talk to someone like super fast. I'd be like, say the little thing, and then they would be all confused and stuff like that. And I'd be like, no, okay, bye, ending it with like a minute and 58,
Yeah.
seconds to make sure all I was doing was wasting my time. And so that's just kind of what you said to where you're like, oh, you would go over, oh yeah, I've been down all day. And so I would be like, oh yeah, I've been on the program for 5 hours today,
Yeah.
not talking to anyone over 2 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. There's a difference between movement and then action. So like
Hmm.
a lot of agents will do movement. What they'll be like, okay, well, I got to dial leads. So they'll like, well, I'm going to go buy some leads and I'm going to go practice my script and I'm going to go do, and it's like all these things that lead up to actually dialing leads, but then they won't actually dial leads. And so the action is what actually produces what you want, the result that you want. You have to dial the leads. They'll do everything leading up to it, which makes them feel like they're being productive. And they'll be like, no, I've been working all day. I'm gonna work just. It's like, no, you haven't been, because the actual result that you want cannot happen if you keep doing those specific movements, right? You have to do the actions. And and I feel like all these entrepreneurs that I've talked to, even me, I even had that same moment where it's like you get in such a bad spot that you have no other choice. You have no other choice. Like it's like if I don't do this, it's going to get so much far worse than what it is now that I'm not going to be able to get out. Like even if I got a 9 to 5, it couldn't dig me out of the hole.
Yep.
So it's like there's no other option. And there's something that happens in your mind. It's like a lever, a switch that flips, or a lever that you kind of, this imaginary lever that you can now pull, and you just crank down on that bitch, and you get to work, and you're more willing to do it because of the position that you're in. And that's I know it happened to me. You're talking about it happened to you. I've spoke to multiple entrepreneurs, and it's happened to them as well. And I feel like everyone has to kind of go through that moment, that really
Hmm.
just difficult, tough moment that they're like, there is no other option. It's like fighting for life, right?
For
Because you're
sure.
willing to do so much more.
Yeah. And, I was very fortunate that that moment came in the middle, or not middle, in early 75 hard. It probably was day 17, 18, something like that, where I got to that moment where I realized, something had happened, but I had developed enough discipline, enough mental toughness in myself to where when I refocused and I said, I have to make XYZ happen, um, I made it happen. And, now I'm doing things that I dreamed of, like 2 years ago. I dreamed of being where I'm at now, and now I'm looking at it like here is like gonna be nothing compared to where I'll be at the end of 2023.
Yeah.
And even that will be nothing compared to where I'll be, 2030. And so it's like an aha moment of getting through all the hard stuff to multiple times I've been like, I'm living my dream.
Yeah.
This is what I've dreamed of, and now I'm living it. And that's the coolest thing in the world. I mean, making
And
good money is cool, but nothing compared to realizing that you're living your dream.
the hard stuff never like goes away. It just becomes
Mhm.
more palatable. Like you just enjoy the process. You realize that that's part of the process. And so you kind of enjoy it. Like now, when I have challenges hit me, I look at it as a growth opportunity. And so like I was listening to one of Andy's old podcasts, his old MFCEO podcast. It's actually episode 2. You guys should go check it out. It's really good. But in the podcast, he's talking about people that have challenging situations that happen to them, or bad external circumstances that take place. Let's say like your girlfriend breaks up with you, and you're sitting there thinking like, man, woe is me, like I can't find, like I loved her, blah blah, and you realize like if you actually looked at the scenario, it's like, well, you guys were fighting a lot on communication. You guys weren't communicating well at all for the whole relationship, and now what you've really done is you've stopped this before it got even worse. So like you should look at it as a positive, because what if you got married and that communication never got better, and then you guys are
Mhm.
married unhappily for a decade, and then you get a divorce and now she's taking half of your stuff. So
Yep.
it could be a lot worse, right? Like you stopped it before you got to that point. And he was talking about like, hey, write down all these negative things that have happened that you feel are holding you back, and go ahead and write out what you learned from it, what you can take away from it, a positive spin, something positive from it, and how you can grow. And there's something to be said about that, because when you put it pen on paper, I mean, when you do that, what you'll find is that it's almost like a cathartic, like you release, you accept that this bad thing happened, but you're also looking forward to the future. And and it's kind of, this lends credence to what you were saying earlier about where you were, and now you're like, you're going through these hard things, but it's like it's part of the process and you enjoy it. And you're looking at where you are now, you're like, dude, I'm actually, like, yeah, it's difficult, yeah, I'm doing all these big things, but man, I'm actually living my dream. This is what I wanted. And what I want now is so much further out. And I know I can get it based on me continuing the daily actions.
I mean, it's the snowball effect, right? The
Yeah.
hardest thing to do is just get that ball rolling, and once you're rolling once it's rolling, it gains more and more traction, and it just gets bigger and bigger. And that's how I feel like every area of my life is.
The,
Business, the gym, like relationships, like everything. It just like I finally got the ball rolling.
the problem with entrepreneurship is that you also have to create the ball by holding your hands out and letting snow fall into it. And then you got to
True.
let it, and you got to stay out in the cold so that your body heat doesn't also melt the snow as it
Melt the
falls into
snow.
your hand. So you got to let enough snow fall into your hand so that you can, and be patient while it forms, while you get enough snow so that you can pack it into a ball and then you can send it out. That's the hard part. It's not just like, you can't just like scoop it up and throw it. You have to like do it in your hand, which makes it way more difficult, and why people don't get started, you
Yeah,
know?
and another thing is too is like always trying to grow and trying to push myself, right? So um gosh, this might sound slightly arrogant, but in my circles that I've been in for years and stuff like that, like I've surpassed a lot of people that I hang out with in as far as financial business achievements, stuff like that. And there's nothing wrong with that. And then it's always about trying to get yourself around better. And so a funny story about this actually past weekend is I was at I was at an event, and I bought like so over the weekend I bought a new pair of sunglasses that were like 250 bucks. And for me, that was like I was like, this is kind of silly to be spending this much money on sunglasses, but I was like, I can afford it. So like cool. And then so I'm sitting there at this table with these people over the past weekend, and everyone at the table but me has a 15, 20, 40, $60,000 watch on. And I'm like, it just kind of was like a realization to me of like, yeah, I've came, a long way because a year ago, before I got started, really started on this journey, there's no way I could have afforded $250 on sunglasses, but I'm not to the point of a $60,000 watch, and
But you're hanging out with the people, you're associating yourself with the people that can do that. And what happens when you associate with those kind of people?
yeah,
You're going to be the sixth.
for
You have
sure.
five
Which
people that are doing that. You're going to be the sixth.
I'm not a watch guy, but that was kind of a real neat example to me of like, yeah, I felt good from the second about, not really worried about spending $250 on sunglasses, but that's nothing compared to somebody that has a $60,000 watch.
Yeah. No, that's that's awesome. Um, Now, looking back on your entire journey and everything that you've experienced, what kind of advice would you give? You came in insurance. I like this one because you're the first insurance professional that's kind of branched out and done other things and been successful. That's talking to obviously the majority of this
Insurance
audience is
agents.
insurance agents. So, what kind of advice would you give them?
So for insurance agents, specifically, the best advice I can give is, you know, find an IMO that believes in you. And I truly believe that Delta Financial is night and day above any other IMO out there. I'm not with Delta, obviously, because I'm kind of like in a different market, but from what I've seen, from knowing Greg, from seeing the success of the agents, like I can't stress that enough to where if you're looking, if you're listening to me talking and you maybe feel like you're in that spot that I was a year ago, like partner with Delta, like that is phenomenal. If you happen to be in the central Arkansas area, partner with me. There's some other stuff too, but like for just a general broad audience, like individual life insurance sales, that's where you can make the most money the fastest. And, just having a good partner and then do the activity. You're not going to want to do it. It's going to suck to do it, but do the activity and do whatever you need to do to make yourself do the activity, if that makes sense. And so for me, that was 75 hard because 75 hard got the discipline in me to do the activity that I needed to do to be successful. So, yeah, that's what I would say is just find a good partner, and do the activity.
Alignment with with the right person, the right mentor is important. I would agree with that 100%. And just so for all the listeners who watch this, this is not, I did not tell Tyler to promote me. So I am
No,
eternally grateful, brother, that you're saying that. That means
he
the world.
didn't. But I truly believe that like integrity is everything, especially in the insurance business. And so, just a little example of like my world is voluntary employee benefits, or things like accident policies. Like our biggest competitor is Aflac. Everybody knows the Doug, their commercials, that kind of stuff. It's all payroll deducted, so people aren't seeing it coming out of their bank accounts. It's coming out of their paychecks. And so I've gone into so many groups to where someone who doesn't make that much money has been oversold by an insurance agent, and they're spending $90 a week when they only make $600 a week on insurance that they don't even need because it's not even their health insurance coverage. And so I've gone in and I've got them to the stuff that they need that is not overkill for $20 a week. And it's so easy to take advantage of people from an insurance agent's perspective. And so integrity is everything in this business. Anything dealing with any kind of financial, you can manipulate people and you can probably make a lot of money by manipulating people. But and you might not get caught, but it's not worth it, right? And so integrity is everything, and being partnered with someone that has integrity. So I get messages on LinkedIn all the time saying, "Hey, I am with the best company ever. You should do it." Blah 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 blah. This one guy sent me like 5 messages in a row on LinkedIn, and I usually don't reply to those, but this dude just kept messaging me. So I was like, "All right, I'm gonna reply." And so he was telling me about how this company is the best thing in the world. And other than saying, okay, how much have you produced with them, which was zero, by the way, I said, okay, is and I named the head of this company. I said, "Is this person still there?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, he's the best thing, ever. He believes in his agency, blah 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 blah." And I just straight up messages, dude. I was like, "That man has no integrity." I was like, "I will never align myself again with that man because I believe that he doesn't have integrity." And I say all that to say, like, Greg has integrity. I've seen it. Greg's team, Kevin, David, um, I don't even know them personally, but just seeing them from social media, being on, a couple of lives with them, things like that, like integrity is everything in the business. And so just because there's a flashy sign that says you can make 145% compensation, like if you're getting into any kind of financial business, like integrity is everything. And yeah, like Greg's like, he didn't tell me to say any of this, but like I just can't like say enough about you and what our friendship has meant to me. And it's kind of funny because I don't you probably didn't even know I was there, but there was an event that you spoke at in Dallas in April of
I know which one you're talking about.
2021, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like COVID was like kind of over, but it was still going on.
Is it the end of
And
April? Is it the end of April? Is it the
yep,
very, very end of April?
Grapevine. It wasn't even
Yeah.
in Dallas, but yeah, it was in Grapevine. And so I was just worn out at this point. So drove 5 hours there because I was all bought into everything. So I drove 5 hours to this event and I was just worn out by hearing people talk the same thing over and over. Just buy more leads, just buy more leads. And then all of a sudden, this like massive person walks by, and I was sitting by like three girls that I didn't even know, and they were all like, "Damn!" And I was like, "You got everyone's attention in that room because there was just something different about you." And you talked, and honestly, you kind of said the same thing that everyone else said. And I was like, "Oh, well," I was like, "He seems different, but he's like saying the same thing." And so I kind of like found social media or stalked social media till I found you and started following you and then annoyed you enough to where you followed me back and we were able to build a relationship. But
Yeah.
it's just
That was back when
integrity
my
is
messages
everything.
that was back when my messages had to be canned.
Yep.
Because I was like, I don't like it because I was doing remote sales and they did not want me to talk about that. And they're like, this is the message you got to say. Like, you got to. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
I mean, integrity. And I truly believe that Greg has it even when people told me that you were getting investigated by the FBI and we're gonna
So,
have your
to this day, that still makes me laugh, bro.
have your house raided and
Yeah,
all of that stuff. I'm like, no, like I've seen it, firsthand. Like, and I feel like integrity is obviously huge to me, and just aligning yourself with people who hold the same values. We had talked about alignment earlier. Um, Align yourself with people who do, integrity because doing the right thing is always more important than making an extra thousand or even an extra $10,000.
yeah. No, it is. It's 100%. You got to be able to sleep at night, honestly. And when everything's said and done, you got to be able to sleep at night. And to your second point about just doing the activity and like doing the hard work, it's going to suck. It is going to suck sometimes, but you get used to it. You kind of enjoy the suck, and it's funny. So when I was in the military, I was terrible at the 2 mile run when I first started. Well, when I was a cadet, because I grew up with asthma, had a really bad asthma, terrible runner. I was great at push-ups, I was a terrible runner. And when I say terrible, like I was like stalled at like doing a 2 mile run at 14 minutes and 30 seconds. So
That's still
um,
pretty good.
it's still pretty good, but for the military, for officer standards, that's terrible. Like officers
Yeah.
need to be running like 13 minutes flat. So I had to shave about a minute and a half off my 2 hour run. And he was a friend and a mentor. He was a prior service guy, Josh Sisson. Love this guy still to this day. Um, Josh, if you ever watch this, love you, bro. So he was like, well, you know what? I think he was like, well, we just got to get you to run a lot more. He's like, we're going to get you to run like 8 and 10 mile runs because if you can run 8 miles, then you could definitely run 2 miles. Like it just changes your mental perspective of it. And he was absolutely right. Like when I started running like more and like really, really, really long runs, We go like 8-mile runs, 10-mile runs, 12-mile runs. When it come time to do a 2-mile run, I was like, well, it's just 2 miles. That's nothing. So like I could give it my all. It was a lot easier to give my all because it's such a smaller event. And that's kind of the same thing with 75 hard is when you're doing these tasks every single day and it sucks. Dude, I'm sore all the time. Right.
Same.
Right. I'm sore all the time. But my body's used to it. But when you have to where you're always doing these difficult things, it's like, okay, well, also just got to make some dollars. You're like, that's not that hard. Like you're just like, whatever. Like I'm already doing all these extra hard things. It makes it more palatable to do the difficult activities that I think people just don't realize the power of that program and why I push it a lot. And I know a lot, it's not for everybody, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not the end all be all. It's just made a massive impact in my life, and I like to talk about the transformative power with people and the impact it can make in their lives if they so choose to commit to it.
For sure.
So, Tyler, thank you so much for coming on board.
Yeah, man.
Great. This was a great conversation.
As always,
yeah, no, definitely, brother. As always have my last segment. I'm going to ask you the question. I'm sure you probably already know this because you've probably listened, but
hey, before you do that, can I throw out my contact info?
Yeah, go ahead. How do people contact you if they want to contact you?
Yeah, so my Instagram is Tyler G. My middle name is Gregory, so it's Tyler G. Weatherly. Follow me on there, shoot me a message. My cell phone number is 501-356-0317. Like, don't call me at 2 a.m. I won't answer, but if anyone, is listening to this and, related to my story, and I'm all about relationships. So if you want to build a relationship, just text me, reach out. Cause I'm going to the top. I want to bring as many people as I can with me.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate that. And last question. If you have 3 people that you can break bread with, learn from, pick their brains, either dead or alive, historically, who would they be? Who would those 3 people be?
Oh man, this is a hard question. I should have done been more prepared. So I would have to have one of like the big like giant ones, either like Jeff Bezos, Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, like one of those 3. And so I would probably say Steve Jobs for my first one, just because he kind of did it first, right? He broke into that mega realm of technology. So is this like a breaking bread if all 3 at once?
No, different.
No, okay, different meals. And another person that I would like to have dinner with would be Ed Milet, just because he came from the financial space and has gone and just done crazy awesome things, and his motivational speaking and stuff, it really resonates with me. The Power of One More, his book, is one of the best books I've ever read.
Yeah, great book.
And gosh, for the third person, gosh, man, this is a hard question. Honestly, it would probably be Mr. Greg Birch, just because.
Oh man, it's that's dicey. That's very kind of you.
No, I mean, just because like it's a relatable thing. You're not as far ahead of me as those other guys are. Like the Apple guys and the Ed Milet or the Amazon or whatever. You're in a lot more closer, like obtainable. You're still ahead of where I am, but you're definitely a lot closer than, like a Jeff Bezos or Steve Jobs or Ed Milet. And so I think there's importance in, running, if you're running a marathon, it's going to be a lot easier to run with the person who is just a little bit faster than you, than the person who is completely faster, than you, that you don't even see.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, so that would honestly be my 3, and I think we're actually supposed to have dinner in March when I'm in Dallas. So
we are, bro. We are. I'm gonna set up like Nick and Sam's or something. We're gonna do something nice.
No idea what that is, but I'm looking forward to it.
It's the best steak restaurant in all of Dallas. I'm gonna get them to sponsor me. It's so good, man. It's so good. Yeah, it's a baller joint. Tyler, thank you so much, bro.
Yeah, man. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, definitely. It's my pleasure. It's just nice that you took the time to share and impart some wisdom to all the viewers and the audience here. Um, there was a lot of nuggets of information and knowledge that were dropped here on this podcast. I would definitely go back and listen to it, talk, and really, hone in on the struggles that Tyler had throughout his life and the way he overcame it. And it's very powerful because this is, I mean, ultimately what he did, anybody can do. What I've done, anybody can do. And that's kind of the purpose of these interviews, is that you kind of see these commonalities, and maybe his story resonates with you so much that you're like, man, he did it, I can do it. And it resonates with you more than, say, my story or any other entrepreneur that's come on story. But Tyler's a super personable guy. Definitely reach out to him, make a relationship. He's just a great person to talk with. As always, this has been the Be the Difference podcast. Thank you guys so much for taking part and listening. I'm your host, Greg Birch. Until next time, and as always,